Hi, friends. It's Cortney here. It is Wednesday, and you are watching Cosmically Connected with me, psychic medium Cortney Kane Sides, here on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. So, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Tonight, we are talking about something that I love. It's a great, great topic of cutting cords. So, cutting cords in our relationships, cutting cords with relationships that no longer serving us, family members, careers, jobs, people we work with, and even our family. And so, who here is, hearing all the terms cutting cords or cutting cords with the toxic relationships in your life that are no longer working for you? It's kind of a very, maybe let's say, trendy topic right now. And it's something that really can help you shift from an understanding of, keeping these relationships in our life when they're not really serving us any longer. So tonight, I hope that you're going to be with me while we dive into this amazing topic, and of course, show support for one another and even answer some of those questions that some of you might have about, should I be cutting cords with this person or that person? So, guys, like every Wednesday, let's go ahead. Let's take a good deep breath in. Let's connect to those guides and angels, and let's see what comes through in this beautiful topic. So, everybody, take a good deep breath in. Big exhale out. And let's call on the guides. So, guides and angels on our right, guides and angels on our left, guides and angels in front, and guides and angels in back, to balance and harmonize our time here, leaving us in the light and allow nothing but the highest, the truest, or the best to manifest upon us now. So again, guys, Elizabeth, our dear friend Elizabeth Hoekstra, started this conversation last week on her podcast on last Friday. So if that's something you would love to touch base on, she was referencing a few of the things in her life from that are also listed in her book that have helped her really make massive positive change and to get on a better track for healing and connecting with her own energy. And one of those things was something that she learned in her last 10 years of sessions with her sessions with myself. And that is the information with cutting cords with energy, again, in people that no longer are serving us. So what I find is it's so important to make sure, first of all, let's talk about cutting cords for yourself, first and foremost. So it's really less about the other person, right? And it's more so about you and your own energy. Our energy, guys, is sacred. And that light being that we all are emanates from us constantly, okay? And so if you can think back, I love the scissors, Kale. I love that emoji. That is such a great one for tonight's podcast. If you can think back to that relationship, and let's start off when we were children. Who today has, say, a teacher that made such an impact on you? And I'm going to talk about negative impacts first, okay? Such a negative impact with you that occasionally that situation, let's say that trauma, that experience comes up sometimes, okay? That's a perfect example with somebody who you might need to cut cords with, okay? And so actually, before I get ahead of myself, let's go back to what I was saying. So that beautiful bubble of protection, that light that you are, that light that we all emanate from our core being, is a sacred energy. And typically later in life, we learn that maybe we should not have given so much access to our space and energy. Let's see, I just saw something about neurofeedback. Sarah, I see that question. I'm going to come to you. That's actually how Elizabeth and I got connected. I worked for a neurofeedback company for years. And so I'm going to come back to your question. Just be patient and we will get there in a bit, okay? But that bubble of protection, if you listen to my podcast, if you're in my sessions, you will hear me speak of it often, is that beautiful sacred gift of light that you were born with, that you were connected with. Call it source, godlike energy. You're connected to the divine. That is what that is. When we cut cords, with people that we have these huge cords of connection with, we're simply giving them back their energy, and we're taking back 100% of ours, leaving our bubble, our energy, our light back intact. Okay. The reason why we cut cords is so that we can be in our space of fulfillment of love, life, choices, all of that. That energy that you're creating when you cut those cords is you coming back to that light that you have always been, that energy when you first came to, let's say, this earth, if you will. So the importance of doing that, when we're the big, huge term right now is a narcissist, being in narcissistic relationships or toxic energy. And of course, we want to cut cords with those connections with those people. The people where, think of it right now, if you guys have, again, I said it earlier, a teacher from the past who was making an impact, and you hear that little voice inside your head, or a relationship of a partner who was really difficult or hard, or you have that trigger sometimes that pops up, and that memory of that pain or that experience pops up within your energy. I say that, I want to take a breath in and move the energy outside of my bubble. When you're having relationships or memories or people that come up to you, let me know if you have that. Put that scissor emoji. That's going to be our emoji for tonight. If you understand that you've got those people in your life, family members, and we're talking about the negative situations that need cord cutting, by the way. When you notice that those relationships are depleting you, it is time to cut the cords. The reason, again, that we do that is there's a series of steps, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit, of the steps of how to cut those cords to know that you're doing them effectively. I see the sword. I love it, guys. Thank you. And to know that you're then, with love, with light, giving back that energy, sending them whatever is theirs, and you're taking back all of your energy back. That's simply what cutting cords does for us. It leaves us energetically whole again. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to do it one time, or we get to do it one time and that's all it takes forever. But what you'll notice is when that person or that negative energy comes back up, again and again and again, you'll have to do it less. You'll have to, what's the way to explain it? You'll notice that you're not thinking of them much any longer. The trauma of the relationship or the situation doesn't necessarily even creep up in your mind any longer. Yes. Audio Ron says some people need to be reminded that there are many sides to us. It is so true. And so, guys, think real back quickly again to all of our sexual partners. Think of, our relationships. When we build these strong emotional and energetic cords with another person, when we don't cut those cords, that cord of energy, within those cords, there's energy rushing back all day long, even when we're not together, even if it's been years. So think of it. Are you feeling depleted? Are you exhausted? Do you not feel like you have enough energy for the things that you love, for your own space and time for you to connect back to yourself fully? Maybe you've got a cord that needs to be cut. So give me, let's say, a different emoji, but a swoop emoji or something like that. If somebody comes to mind for you, if you want to think about that person when we do the steps, I think that can be very helpful. What I do notice is some people get really fearful when we're talking about cutting cords. It's not a negative thing. You're not severing the relationship for spite. You're not cutting them off so they have no access for you forever necessarily. But what you're saying is that I find that my energy is sacred. And you get to decide who shares that light with you and who no longer gets to share that light with you. So I had learned the way that I cut cords is through a shaman that I had worked with in Scottsdale, Arizona years ago. probably 14 years ago. And his name is John English. And he was a wonderful person to learn from, and I still use his way. And so the way that he has taught me was a way that really I find that works very fully. And it is also a way that I use in my everyday sessions with my clients. We cut cords a lot just to create that safe space for ourselves again. And so we've talked about some of those negative reasons as to why we need cord cutting. So that could also be, say, a coworker at work, a coworker. Say, we all have those people, as I say it, I know everybody's thinking about it, from 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 45 years ago, maybe even, that ticked us off. And sometimes that comes up for us. Or if somebody is to say their name and we have a little steaming that happens in our energy, it's time to cut cords. Because energetically, there's something, if you had an awareness or an understanding of the situation, but it does not. Voltron says peace to everyone. I love it. Hi, Voltron. Thank you for being here. Peace. And that's exactly actually what we're trying to access within our energy is peace. We want that with every person that crosses our path in the future, and every person that has crossed our path, before. And so, yes, peaceful attachment, excellent topic for the day. I love it. Thank you so much. And so let's talk about the reasons we cut cords with sometimes the people that we love. The way that I like to explain this, and by the way, everybody has their own opinions, and I really value every one of your opinions and other light workers and teachers. But the way that I feel about this is it's also very healthy to cut your cords, sometimes with those you love. The reason to do that is so that your partner, your person, can have, again, 100% of their energy, and you have 100% of yours, so that when you all come together, it's a choice between the two of you. You know that person is here not out of feeling responsible or out of guilt or anything like that, but it's one of those things that they're actually choosing to be a beautiful part of your life in that moment, time and time again. So most people don't think of cutting cords with the ones that they love. They want to cut cords with those that are, they feel that are negative relationships, okay? So when my oldest was younger, I'll use her as an example. She's 25 now. I remember not wanting to impart my my wants or needs onto her, and not wanting to impart my the way that I wanted her life to go or anything like that. I wanted no pressure for my own energy. I wanted her to feel that love from myself, of course, my guidance, my opinions, of course. When she asked, I wanted to raise her so that she could actually be self-sufficient within her own right of energy. And I remember cutting cords with her, and my husband, now ex-husband at the time, and feeling such, I got chills as I just said that, so feeling such peace when I did that. And I will tell you, that 25-year-old daughter of mine is so beautifully and fiercely independent, and so we have such a beautiful relationship. But I was really mindful to make sure that my wants and beliefs and whatever were not infringing her on the path that she felt as though she wanted to move down. And so again, that cutting cords, even simply out of love, can be a very beautiful process. And so that is something that I think is something that most people don't talk about, and they don't really even hear about that. But even again, cutting those cords with relationships so that everybody feels as though we're coming together because of this heartfelt connection, and not because of this codependent relationship, if you will. Now, in a way, we're talking about also, I want to talk about cutting cords in this beautiful digital world that we live in. So think about it, guys. All of us, hello, we're here on social media right now. We're on this beautiful live podcast hosted here on YouTube, in which will be played on the replays and will be played now and a million years later, right? And so what happens is even when people have access energetically to a video of us, a video, and they're watching that, people are connected energetically. So I know that many light workers are here in the comments. Give me a heart symbol if you're a light worker, if you're working and you're just spiritually connected and you understand what I'm about to say. But even in our work, it's very important to cut cords with those. Think of them as the video. So you don't have to label each one specifically, but doing the cutting cord exercise with the thought pattern of cutting cords with even the energetic videos out there, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that, right? I see everybody typing heart, the emoji heart. Thank you guys for being here. We now, as a people, are feeling more drained than ever. Am I right? Guys, let me hear it. Keep giving me those hearts or give me a new sun emoji or something. If you're feeling more exhausted than you have before, well, think of this energetic world where everybody has such connection and attachment to all of us, right? Yes. And it's because even for some that are putting the work out there, even when we're sleeping, people are watching videos, people are looking at all the content and all of that. And if we think that that does not create some sort of an energetic cord, I think we're kidding ourselves. So even in your work of business, in the way that you show up energetically on social media, if you're being triggered by this or that, it's time to cut the cord, the energetic cord. So let's talk about how. Let's talk about, I see the saw. I love that. Ethan, thank you, my dear. Let's talk about how to go through the steps of cutting those cords. So the way that I will tell you, the way that I was taught is and the way that I share and teach everybody else sessions or in the private work that I do, is I want you all to get really good and comfortable. And we're just going to run through this real quick and then we can do it again on the end. I want you just to witness me moving through it, okay? And so I would ground my energy, meditate. I would do this maybe on the very end tail of meditation, and then an opening to connecting to the guides and angels. And so once you're in that calm, quiet space, taking that deep breath in and starting to visualize your person, the person who you're wanting to cut the cords with, that ex-husband, that ex-wife. I just felt big breath needed to happen for a lot of you out there. There was a teacher from when you were in grade school that their verbiage, their opinion, their angst that you have felt from that connection is still there. Visualize that person sitting in front of you and feel them. Watch whatever's coming up in your body and feel that. When you're shutting your eyes, I want you to focus and visualize and see. And if shutting your eyes is easier, great. If opening your eyes and you can still feel and see this, I think it's great. Yes. Okay. Elicit, we will get into that. I love it. We will talk about that. And so it's one of those things where I want you to feel and see this energetic cord coming from the top of your head to the top of their head. This cord of light, when I see it, and I ask that you all feel it either pulsating or moving back from you into this other person. And you feeling that energy and sensing that energy with them, okay? And to me, it's a golden light. I always imagine my light as being golden, yellow, white light. You can visualize and feel it however you'd like to feel that or see that. But feeling that running of energy going to them and from them to you, so you're energetically picking up on this constant rotating of energy from you to them, okay? What you're going to do once you get a good solid visualization of that person there in front of you, you're going to take your hand, your dominant hand. And so I'm right-handed, we're going to use the right hand. And so visualizing your hand like the knife, the sword, whatever your device that you'd like to use. Visualize your hand being such, and you're going to follow my hand. So you're going to repeat after me. I cut all cords, and you're visualizing that you're slicing that cord in half. I cut all cords that go from me to other people in particular, and you say your person's first and last name. I cut all cords that go from me to other people in particular, and you say their first and last name. Take a good deep breath in. Big exhale out. And then you're going to do this again, but the knife is going to go the opposite direction. I cut all cords that go from me to other people in particular, and say their first and last name. I cut all cords that go from me to other people in particular, their first and last name. Take a good deep breath in, and you don't have to move your hands out. That always helps me feel as though it's getting out of that system. Now, as we say this, we're going to do this one more time, guys. So everybody be patient, take a breath, keep that visualization of the person there. We're going to do this in reverse. So we're going this way. So now you're going to go this way again. So say I cut all cords that go from me to other people in particular, say their first and last name. I cut all cords that go from me to other people, and say their first and last name. Big inhale, big exhale. And okay. So your cord should be done. Belle says, do we start over with multiple people or just say all names? That's a really beautiful question. Now, if you have a list, go through your list if you'd like to, if you feel like it's really important to do that, and they're all as deeply deep relationships that need to be cut, then sure, go through the rest of them. Okay. And however, if you feel as though you can do this every time in meditation, and you can maybe cut cords with one or two people, I think that that's wonderful. Okay. And so once you do that, inhale, exhale it out, you send that energy back to them. You take on what was yours. What I will say is exactly the way that we did that. You're also going to repeat it again, but you're going to say, instead of me to other people, you're going to repeat other people to me. So let's do this again, guys. So I cut all cords that go from other people to me in particular, say their first and last name. I cut all cords that go from other people to me in particular, first and last name. Big inhale, big exhale out. And so you do that, cutting the cord this way, and again, cutting the cord this way. That cord, your energy, everything is intact. Ooh, I love that. Michelle Reed says, how would you phrase cutting cords for past lives? Michelle, I believe that when you find the rhythm to expand upon whatever you've been taught, okay, you just speak it into a way that feels like truth to you. And when you do that, I feel like that will be the exact way for you to do it. So I don't want you to get too hung up on what exactly works for you and what exactly doesn't. Very often, this is also all about intention. Okay. Now you will see this. Let me know if you listen to this podcast, if you watch this every week with me, or if this is your first time here, give me a sun emoji. But if you listen to this every week, start giving me heart emojis. Let me see this. You would listen and you hear me say it constantly. I always say, take that good deep breath in and exhale it out. When I say, even in mid-sentence, sometimes I stop, I take a breath, and I breathe. What I'm doing when I do that, guys, I don't ever even go into detail, is I'm coming back to my energy, and I'm breathing out whatever is not my highest, my truest, or my best. And so I'm constantly filtering my energy through that breath. So that can be, guys, your maintenance for those moments of time when it's time to cut your cords. Gregory says, do we want to cut ties to our past lives, or is it beneficial to remember them? Now, good question. I don't know when we cut ties or cut our cords with past lives, Um, I still feel that you will remember and connect to what it is that's going to be helpful in the now, helpful in the moment. But if you're finding as though there's a healing that needs to take place and there's already been an awareness observed with that past life, that situation coming up, you're still learning. And you feel like you've gotten to that point, I think it's okay then to, let's say, make peace and cut cords with that. Like I said earlier, I cut cords with the people that I love, and I do that so that there is space and beauty within those relationships. Now, that is my understanding. You might find another teacher that later says that absolutely not, you don't want to do that. But I want to know that I don't want to project onto another my hopes, my wants, my beliefs. I want to be so clearly in my own beautiful space, and my people clearly in their own beautiful space as well. And so that is why the cutting cords is so, I believe, just very vital. And so the way I'm going to get to all of your questions, I'm so excited that they're all rolling in. So thank you guys for being here. If you have a friend, by the way, that feels like this, they need to hear this, please forward this to them. Please share it on your social media. I'll do all my cord cutting with the videos later. But please share it. That would be awesome. We would so appreciate it. And if you want to get notifications when we go live here on Wednesdays and all the other times when we share really great information and videos, please subscribe and follow and all of that good stuff. And also find me on all the social media platforms. However, so let's go back to the questions, guys. It's important to be cutting those cords because it's going to help you feel lighter. Lighter in energy, lighter in your day, lighter in the attachment to the way that you feel like it has to happen. You're going to be trusting more of that light. Does that make sense? Gemini Love says, can we cut cords, the negative energy between ourselves and a loved one? 100% Gemini. So go back and re-listen to this video. I touch base on that. I cut cords with my children. I don't cut cords because I don't love them. I don't cut cords because I'm a lover. My girls know how much I'm connected to them, and I know that they feel mothered and nurtured through me. I cut cords so that those kids feel so beautifully in their own light and bubble, so that my projections of the way I want things to go, my wants, my beliefs, my control, which we all, I believe, have a little bit of that as parents, as human beings. I cut cords with that so that they can feel free in their little beings and themselves. And I believe that that can really set us free in our parenting another human being, right? I love it. Let's see here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to touch base and move up. So Elizabeth, I think I was just getting on that topic and I moved around in my conversation. But Elizabeth has shared that she'd been doing this. I taught her to cut cords many years ago, and she's been using this in her life since then. And it has been a beautiful thing for her. It's something that she has written about in her book, and I am grateful to be one of those things in her book that helped change her. One of those beautiful modalities, and that. Let me say this. She made the change, actually. I didn't change her. She made the change. She made the choice. But what happens is when we cut cords to those things that creep up with us, our connections for the ways that we see things need to be and have to be, it really does release us. And something I've heard from every client that has ever done this is they simply feel lighter. They feel more space. They feel more connected to their higher self and a connection to what feels really good and solid to them. Let's see here. Thank you for doing this video. I literally just cut cords 30 minutes ago. Such synchronicity. I love that too. Isn't that fun how that works out and plays out? Belle says, do we start over with multiple people or just say all the names again? You can do it in the way that feels beautiful for you. I almost feel as though saying one person at a time has more effect. Okay. I feel like it's more solid, if you will. And if you feel once you've gone through the steps of doing it, you will feel more connected to yourself than when you started the process. And so we can run through this one more time when we're done, guys. I'm going to do it again. We're going to do it fully in both ways. And so it's going to take a few moments, but I want you to be able to have that and not have a hiccup or a pause in between. So I want you to be able to have that and refer back to it. Let's see. Bringer of Change says, expand your consciousness as you fully expand your lungs and exhale with the real release of all attachments, stress, and negativity. I love that. Thank you. Let's see here. It is really a beautiful, beautiful thing to connect to that space and energy. And once you start to cut those cords, you will realize how heavy it feels when we're connected to everybody's energy around us, and how vital and important the upkeep and the space to yourself will be. And so it's extremely important to actually start to get really comfortable at one with what your energy also feels like. So you meditating, you spending time within your own bubble with yourself is something extremely important, so that you can actually be really comfortable with having no attachments, no cords running with other people. That codependent or that toxic energy can be something that we're attracted to because maybe that's how it was when we were little, and we weren't really comfortable with having to be maybe on our own footing in our own space. And so it feels better sometimes when we're not healed or processed to have a million cords, because then if there was nothing, we'd be left with ourselves to feel, right? And that can be very hard sometimes. So as I say that, as we talk about cutting cords, simply healing and looking at your own stuff is another huge part of this process. But once you cut the cords of these attachments and these connections with other people, you're going to be left with more space to heal and to feel the stuff you're supposed to heal and feel, which is not always the fun part, by the way. Yes. So Lucinda says, I also read that people can hook in their energy through spleen area under the left armpit. I rub green adventure in this area and call my energy back to me and send energy back to others. That's a really great way. Guys, you will also, what feels like truth and the way to process and cut the cords and do this will come to you naturally. So like I said, this way of cutting cords has been something that I've been connected with for many years, and it felt like an aha moment when I learned it. It felt like that makes sense, and this feels like truth and the way to do this for me. So if it simply does not feel like your way of cutting cords, and there's a way like Lucida, thank you for sharing that, to call back her energy, and that works for her, I say use what works for you. It's a really, really beautiful thing. And when you add that to your life, you will actually see life showing up to you in more of a beautiful, balanced way too, because it's more focused on what's yours and not the depletion of your energy moving out of your system. I love it. Michelle says, I often cut cords with clients I've worked on. It's so freeing. It really is. I am a psychic medium, and I see clients Tuesdays through Fridays in person and virtually with people from around the world. And I can tell by the end of the week, it's time to have downtime. It's time to cut those cords and connect back to my bubble, which I do with that breath moment to moment throughout the week. But that exercise, that experience of even slicing the cord, that visualization, that moment, that feeling when you are done, is a knowing, like you know that you have done the work to clear your space. And again, I really encourage you to find the rhythm and time that works for you, whether that's in the morning. Also, guys, doing this in the shower is so good. Water acts as a conductor of energy. And so whatever, if you're meditating while you're washing your hair in the shower, that's a really great space to connect to those guides and angels. I know it sounds funny, but it is so true. It really, really is. All right, guys, I'm flowing through, looking to see some more questions. Let's see. How can we cut cords from belief systems? Hi, Fatima. Thank you for being here, my friend. Um, I would do it in that same way. I would find a way to express it when you're saying, I cut all cords that go from me and to other belief systems, such as, or into the blank belief system. And I would do it in that way. And for me, that exhale, that it's almost like you're pulling all of that energy out of your system and you're breathing it back to who it came from. And so I would do that and see how it feels to you. See if that feels like it does the trick for you and come back to me. We would love to hear how that works for you. Let's see here too. Let's see. To cut cords with ego self. Ooh, yes. In order to be a clairvoyant, do we need to cut cords with the ego self? Gregory, really good question. I take a breath and send that energy out. I think that in that work or in any work, honestly, when we're teaching or leading, it's so important to make sure that we're watching that. Okay. A really amazing book that helped me with that was The Power of Now, or A New Earth with Eckhart Tolle, which is, a masterpiece. If you've read that, just give me an emoji. I loved it when it first came out. It was so great, so great. And to listen to his audible with that too is really cool too, because he's got this very meditative voice that can kind of soothe and calm. And I remember it was so it was such a smart book back then, and still is really, really amazing, by the way. But he really talks about the ego self. I think that cutting the cords with that ego self is massively part of that work. Sure, I do think that doing that work or having the awareness to watch and see the mirror when that does come up, in all the things we do and all the things we, work with, I think it's extremely important. So thank you, Gregory, for pointing that out. I think that's awesome. So yes, I do think that that's something that can be extremely beneficial, and I would say necessary. Necessary. Yeah. Let's see here. Gemini, you're welcome for answering that question. Haku Wee says, is cutting cords with material things such as money, for example, possible to do? I believe that it is. And let somebody down below, now I understand that that's why somebody said money is energy. So I believe that they were answering your question. So I love that, guys, when you show support for one another in this thread. It's a beautiful thing. I believe that, yes, you can. A phrase that I use, and if you listen to this podcast, you will hear me say it often, is abundance finds me in all forms. I do not want just, financial wealth. I want wealth in love, wealth in heart, wealth in health, wealth in career. I want wealth across the board. I want to live the most beautifully abundant life. And when I say that, to me, it has no attachment with money or anything like that. However, I want that abundant financial energy as well. And so it's not necessarily, if you can look at money as energy, I think that you can do that. Now, I will say this is pretty interesting too. This, in my business, I want to talk about the business. In the business I'm in, people pay me all day long through virtual payments, right? I don't even see it. And so in my mind, it almost feels as though there's an energetic exchange, because I almost never see that. And in a way, that abundance, when we get to step into the flow, I could go on and on about this topic, but when we get to show up and step into that flow of energy, it does find us, right? We are living in this material world. And so I don't want to say that, in my experience, it is necessary to have that energy, money, find us so that we can be living and prosper in this world. However, the attachment to the money as it being the end all be all, to me, is the cord cutting that you could possibly the need for it to be so ingrained in that way. I think it can happen. Let's see here. Robin Hartman says, I have cut cords with my twin flame. We have been apart for 2 years, but I feel our reunion is near. It was near very, reunion is near. Was very toxic and codependent. Could you provide me a time frame of when she will return? Hi, Robin. Thank you for being here. If the person, it feels like there's so much time and space when you, I'm going to answer this real quick for you, but it does feel like it will be time. I see years before that is done, but it does feel like we want to make sure that that codependency and everything is addressed and seen, looked at, healed before there's a connection back together. So I feel a little hesitancy there. Yeah. Okay, Lucida, this is a great comment. Lucida says, one time I did a cord cutting exercise and the person contacted me immediately after. Was that because they felt themselves cut off? 100%. 100%. Take a breath in. And so, very often when you go through the series of the cord cutting, you will feel or get a text, you could get a phone call, you could get, somebody reaching out. It is true. When they do, make sure that when they contact, if they contact, take the deep breath in. Thank you for the awareness it is mine. Exhale it out. So you don't necessarily have to cut cords again because the connection is not as strong as it used to be. Okay. You breathe in and you exhale it out, sending their energy back to them. That's a really, really cool thing. But Lucida, yes, thank you for saying that and pointing that out. I totally would not have even shared that this evening. And so it is something that does happen. It's a very kind of comical thing. If you're in one of those relationships, which many of us have been in, where it's a tug and pull type relationship, we don't want to continue that. When you're finally done, no longer allowing it, it's time to cut the cords and say, thank you. Thank you for serving me. Thank you for being a teacher on my path. Send them on their way. You will most definitely be getting contacted. Thank you, and send them off. The cord cutting the cord cutting cuts the energetic memories, the bonds, the almost the thickness of that cord, if you will. It cuts that cord, and it's not as heavy. They won't necessarily trigger you maybe like they did before too. So you'll notice that in some of those relationships as well. Elizabeth brought up in her podcast last week, talking about, especially if you have a sexual relationship or had a sexual relationship with that person, guys, going back to your small sexual partner list or massive sexual partner list, I would go through and cut cords with each individual, reclaiming that energy that was yours and is still yours, and sitting and sending back their energy and cutting those bonds, cutting that energetic highway, if you will. When we don't do that, think of all the years, again, coworkers, bosses that were just so hard, teachers, experiences that you had where, that person comes up and pops into mind here and there. It's a big trigger for you. That's a person you need to cut cords with. Yes. I love it. Josie says, I was told once that cutting cords grow back. I was instructed to pull them out with the roots attached. Okay, I love that. So Rosie, I would go ahead and use that because I feel like that is a really great thing to do. Thank you for that, my friend, by the way. But I think I have never actually heard of pulling those roots with it. Take a breath in with me. Exhale it off. I think that that's a really great way to add that into your way of cutting cords. Okay, I'm going to see a couple more questions down here. Yeah. Thank you guys for those super stickers. I so appreciate them. Thank you, my friend. Michelle says, well, yes, I cut all cords with every past boyfriend now that I'm with my twin flame. I love it. Okay, guys, let's do this one more time. Are you ready? Okay, guys, so I'm going to sit to the side so you can see me. How do you cut cords? Green, Biden beats. We're doing it right now. So everybody, big inhale, big exhale out. We're clearing that space. I would advise you after meditation, after connecting with your guides and angels, that is a perfect time to cut cords, okay? Okay, so if you can shut your eyes for a moment, guys, think of that one person. There might be 45 of them you need to cut cords with, but let's think of one. Okay, I have one in mind. Let's do it. I want you to visualize their face in front of you. And I want you to feel this energetic cord of energy and vibration coming from the top of your head to the top of theirs. You can connect a color to it. And the way I see it, it's like gold swirling electricity coming from the top of my head to this person's head, right? Seeing that energy come and go, come and go. You guys have been sharing this energy for some time and this no longer serves you, okay? Okay, you're going to take your hand. Your hand is like the knife. And you're going to cut these cords, okay? All right, so repeat after me. I cut all cords that go from me to other people, in particular, and say their first and last name. I cut all cords that go from me to other people. Wait, I'm messing this up. I cut all cords that go from me to other people, in particular, say their first and last name. Take a deep breath in. Okay, and so now we're going to take our hand and we're going to do it this way from the back to the front. I cut all cords that go from me to other people, in particular, say their first and last name. I cut all cords that go from me to other people, in particular, say their first and last name. Take a good deep breath in and exhale it out. You should feel lighter now. We're going to go ahead and stay in this pose and stay connected. We are now doing the same thing, but in reverse. Hand going from front to back. I cut all cords that go from other people to me. In particular, say their first and last name. I cut all cords that go from other people to me. In particular, say their first and last name. Okay, and so watch my hand going now from back to front. I cut all cords that go from other people to me. In particular, first and last name. I cut all cords that go from other people to me. In particular, say their first and last name. Take a good deep breath in and exhale that energy out. Okay. That is something. Now, there might be other people who will teach you and show you in a different way. Use what works for you. Use what connects to your own energy that feels like truth. Thank you, Michelle, for that. I so appreciate it. Connect to the way energetically that allows you to feel lighter. But that specific, those steps right there will help you cut cords with those relationships that are not serving you, with those previous experience in career and life and all family, that will help you bring your energy brighter, lighter, and more abundant than ever. Yes. I see that bringer of change. Thank you for sharing your truths like this, my friend. Yeah. Is it like Pinocchio cutting puppet strings to become a real boy? I mean, I guess you could look at it in that way. He's cutting strings to connect to himself rather than somebody who's trying to control him. Yes, I would say that that's 100% correct. In my mind, bringer of change, has a different opinion on that. But to me, in a way, if you're looking at it from a parental guidance, maybe, that is one reason why I cut cords with my children, is because I want them to feel as though they are their own light. Now I'm here, I love, I'm maternal, I share, they're with me, they get all of that, but they're also, I don't never wanted to project my own control and wants on their life. I wanted them to feel as though they had space to decide what was correct for them in time. Yes. I love it. Thank you, guys. So it is interesting. I want to leave the rest of this time to talk. I love it. I love that everybody's using it. Thank you. I want to talk about neurofeedback. So Sarah had asked that. Sarah, if you're still here, give me a heart. Let me know that you're here listening still. That was another something that Elizabeth had shared last week on her podcast, which is essentially why we're talking about cutting cords today. She brought up also the work of neurofeedback. And so I worked for an amazing company for years in Scottsdale. Hi, Sarah. And it was, then they've renamed it, so I'm not going to even give you the name now. But there's a lot of amazing companies out there that work in the world of neurofeedback. And the entire idea was that with this particular device, they attach electrodes to the head. The electrodes are not sending anything into the brain. They're simply reading the energy of your brain. They come up with a brain mapping. And when you're in the neurofeedback chair, you're listening to the auditory feedback, and it's simply your brain hearing itself, the way that it is imbalanced, and will need to help it return to balance, to homeostasis. And so the point of that software was that the software was acting like a mirror. And so once the brain got to see itself in the form of hearing itself, hearing its beats, it then was able to understand what needed to change to help bring homeostasis and balance into the brain. It was amazing. And so once you would do that, the brain would become more balanced. That means alpha would rise up, the right hemisphere, the left hemisphere would all simply balance. Once you were able to do that, and they would do it in a package of sessions at that particular time. And this was, guys, 15 years ago, I was working in this work. If I didn't do that, I don't know that I would be doing what I do today, by the way. So the neurofeedback is amazing. And what I mean by that is the ownership, because science can measure psychic activity in the brain. And if I had never worked there and seen my own brain mapping over numerous, many, many years, working with many healers, many quantum physicists, and amazing scientists and neurologists from the world, I would have never have, my skepticism would have never have allowed me to continue to keep diving in and stepping into this work. So it really is amazing. But what happens when the brain starts to find balance is that the brain, or you will start to be able to sleep. You will find that certain things fall away, like anxiety, depression. You will have memories and things possibly come up that you have relief from, or a healing energy from. Pain in the body can sometimes dissipate, but it is pretty darn amazing. Okay. Also, there are many different practitioners around the world at this point that do this. The company I'd worked for had put the system into so many different countries. It was amazing. I have a dear friend in Detroit, Michigan, Dr. Rose Moten. She's a dear friend of mine, and she has a beautiful device and a center. And I wish I had the name of it. If you comment below, I will make sure, and I mean comment below once the video is done, once podcast is done, I will list her information. If anybody is in Michigan, you can certainly go see her. She's wonderful. But that neurofeedback, again, it can help so many different things. Trauma, leave the body, or leave the mindset. So it's just a really, really cool thing. I would encourage all of you to look into if it was something that you loved. So anyway, let's see here. I've learned to manually control my emotions to control my brainwave frequency, and I've learned to physically flex the pineal gland and cause myself sleep paralysis, but I'll get the hang of it. What's really cool is I remember, and I've done a zillion, hundreds of sessions in that neurofeedback chair. And I remember once the brain goes into homeostasis, you can then look into different other ways of, and we weren't putting this out there to everybody else, but because I worked there and we were working with all the fun scientists and things like that, you could tweak your alpha. And I remember, guys, when I was in that neurofeedback chair, it's like meditation times 50. Like, it's really awesome. If I raised my eyebrows, it sounds so ridiculous, I could raise my alpha. And when your alpha is raised, that is more psychic connectivity, psychic energy. And I will tell you that while in that chair, I would start to have connections with my own, both my parents have passed, my own mother and father. And so I would have my own kind of connections within my own psychic gifts and abilities, and mediumship while I was sitting there in the chair and getting kind of visions in that way. And so that's not something that a lot of people will say or tout, but it is definitely an experience that I had. And so, of course, we're looking at neurofeedback more for healing or for help with trauma and all kinds of other different things. I don't know that there are many people out there touting that it's going to help your intuitive gift. There might be. I just might not be fully aware of that. Let's see. Laura Clark says, how many sessions of neurofeedback would I need to bring back homeostasis? Good question. It is different for every person. I will say that if you look up my oldest daughter, she's going to kill me. She's 25 now, but she has a stutter. And when I first started working at this particular company, they said, no, we think we could help her stutter, at least make it subside with a certain amount of sessions, 12. And so they say doing an intensive is what they called it. Guys, this is 15 years ago, 13 years ago I'm talking about. They said that if she could do an intensive, then it could help her, and we'll just see what happens. And so she did an intensive. She was at work with me all the time, and once she started, her stutter stopped by the end of that week. And she was about 5, I don't remember, 7 something, maybe at the age. And it was amazing to hear her speak so clearly and all of that. Now, later, she's 25 now. So she, has drank alcohol here and there. She's a grown up. She's had other different triggers or traumas, just like we all have in life. And her stutter has come back. So I'm not saying that brain training is the end all be all. It's another modality that if used correctly in the right beautiful form, it can really help you. But just like anything, I do think that it requires maintenance. And so homeostasis is a beautiful thing. It can last for a while. Sometimes they say once something comes up, another trauma, another something, it can trigger you to go back into that unbalanced state, which isn't that normal for anything, right? So I would have you look into it. If you guys looked into, she would kill me, I'm going to say this though. If you look at brain training, Paige Stutter, Paige, you'll see her before and after with her it was called Brain State Technologies, but her before and after, it's on YouTube. It's so sweet. But you'll see her stutter before and her stutter after the sessions. And that was a real video. So anyway, guys, thank you for talking about all of the cord cutting and the random crossover into neurofeedback. Let's see. Let's go back to a couple more questions. Can we cut a cord with someone who has crossed over? 100%, Linda. Absolutely, you can. So, guys, this is the thing too, is write this stuff down as you do this in your life. Get your book out, your notebook, and just cross down if it felt like it worked for you, if it didn't, if you felt connected to it, or if you might need to tweak it for yourself. Guys, you get to decide how that looks. Yeah, I love it. All right, guys, thank you for being here. Listen, I have a virtual group coming. I think it's on Monday next week. Guys, there's spots open. If you guys want to do a group session, this is a fun experience. Everybody gets read, everybody gets time together, and it's a virtual experience. So go to my website, look at the events calendar, and you can book your own spot. There's only 9 spots left. And that is a really, really fun experience to be able to connect to your guides and angels and your loved ones on the other side and talk about anything else that the guides and angels want to go into. And of course, go to the website to book your own private session. You can always book an in-person or a virtual session. Guys, thank you for being here. I so appreciate you. And I hope that you cut those cords and you find space for yourself, and your energy is more abundant than ever in your healing. We're not just talking about financial money when we say abundant. We're talking about wealth. That means health, love, finances, everything, you're healing. And so that's what we're wanting. So cut those cords and help yourself rise higher with your own vibration. All right, guys, thank you for being here. I will see you next week on Wednesday here on Cosmically Connected. I'm psychic medium Cortney Kane Sides, and you can go to CourtneyKaneSides.com to book your sessions. I'll see you guys next week.